So I'm Kathryn Friedrich, as you heard. I'm the General Manager of Operations. I'm relatively new to this role. I've been only at Conde Nast now for about almost 3 months. But I was actually at Conde Nast 20 years ago, and then I've spent a long period of time where I explored digital and other things. I was at Google and YouTube for 10 years as well. So, the transition from when I was at Conde Nast back in 2000 versus now has been extraordinary, not only from the company itself, but also from the industry. 20 years ago, you could be classified as a print brand, you could be classified as a radio, you could be classified as TV, and that could be your business. But over the last 20 years, you can't really be in any one of those businesses. Everybody's experimenting in all walks of life when it comes to content, when it comes to audience development. And so now we're in an even more competitive time where it's hard to just label yourself as one thing and not expand beyond that. So what I want to talk about is, how do we keep these iconic brands of Condé Nast relevant? How do we keep them modern? How do we do this in this constant evolution of change where audiences are everywhere? And you can't be everywhere. It's really hard. Maybe you can if you have really large budgets, but I would imagine that most of us don't have the budgets to be everywhere and to be everything to everyone. So we're modernizing through video. You may not know this, but over the last 8 years, 5 to 8 years, we've been amassing some tremendous success using video. We have 17 brands globally. We have the ability to make 4,000, and we are making 4,000 plus videos every year. And we're getting over 1 billion viewers a month. These are astounding numbers, but it's funny that with as big as they are, Condé Nast is not necessarily, video isn't the first thing you think about when you think of Condé Nast. First you think of the magazines, and we're trying to create brands, not magazines anymore. So how do we move into this multimedia entertainment world? It's through some of these big brands that you see here and adapting them, changing them, modernizing them. You think of some of them, these are the epitome of fashion, style, culture, lifestyle, even food with Bon Appetit. So how does this resonate with people? We know we've had this long history, but is that enough? Can we rest on those laurels, or what do we have to do to modernize? As I said, it's going to be video. Video is how we engage with our customers now. People want to see more than just text in a magazine. How can we build those connections? But when we started to think about video, we had to think about how we expand our video. So the first step, and probably everyone's first step, is to develop their owned and operated websites. Great. We did that. It worked. It was great. But it's really also hard to bring people into a destination anymore. That audience development side of it is challenging. And it makes it incredibly difficult to build your audiences because the consumers don't go to destinations anymore. They will, but they're also going everywhere else. And so if you want your content to be relevant and if you want your video to be seen, you need to figure out where else you should put it. We are in all of these places at this point, but that's not where we started. And I think if you start out thinking, oh my God, we got to be everywhere, you'll never get there. So you have to pick and choose. You have to pick where you think will make the most sense. We actually started to really expand onto YouTube and these massive destinations. We tried them all out, and actually we found that YouTube was a good place for us to go because we could also monetize it there, which was really important for the development. We needed to keep that flywheel going where we had money coming in so we could develop more content. But it's not easy. It's not easy to just say, hey, what worked and what's working for us in our O&O is going to work for us on YouTube. It's a totally different platform. People are there for a totally different reason. They are consuming content in a totally different way. So we had to figure out how we adopt our IP. And what we're doing is connecting with audiences, and we never wanted to forget that. We wanted to be audience first, and we want to maximize the experience of the audience on that platform. So when you look at some of these brands that we have, like a GQ, we love storytelling. GQ tells great stories, and we're constantly thinking, how do we tell a better story or tell an extension of a story that we saw in a print version? And we knew we wanted to tell this story here about Last Chance U. That's the name of a very hot Netflix series that we created. We're in the 5th season now, and it was one of the most binged-watched series on Netflix last year. It developed out of an article that was written in the magazine about a Mississippi junior college and its football team going for the 3rd-year division title. What we thought was interesting about this story and why we wanted to bring it to life through video was because nobody hears about the trials and tribulations of those athletes. You hear about D1 athletes, you hear about the NFL. D1 athletes get exposure because they're on TV every week. Those schools are there. Whereas in a junior college, these kids are fighting for their lives almost every week. They're getting beat up because their goal is to get to a D1 college. Their goal is to be seen on television. So they don't have, this is their last chance to make it big. So they are ferociously fighting every week to get the attention of their coaches and to get the attention of scouts. Awesome story to be told, but it's a documentary. It needed to be told in long form. You couldn't tell it on YouTube. So that's why we approached Netflix with the opportunity to tell this story there. So we had to make a tough call. This was a story we wanted to tell, but match it to the appropriate platform to tell it where we knew it would resonate with an audience. On the flip side, we have a show called Most Expensivest. This is a little more irreverent, it's a little more fun, not as hard-hitting and serious as Last Chance U. It stars 2 Chainz as our host, which I'm sure you're all fans of his, and he really is an outstanding host. He goes and looks at the 1%er opportunities of things to buy. So for instance, we have him exploring and tasting a $10,000 bottle of whiskey, a $600 cup of coffee. It's things that most normal people of normal means can't do, and he's giving you a little bit of access, but doing it in such a fun way that it's compelling and interesting for the audience. That didn't feel like a Netflix show. This felt like a Viceland show. And so we approached Viceland, and so we're, again, mapping the story, the ideas, to the platform that we're putting them on. When we think about extensions and how we're building these brands into video, it's not always easy to just take something right out of the pages of our magazines and do a video on them. It doesn't always make sense that way. So what else can we do? Well, considering we were looking at YouTube in the beginning, what was resonating on YouTube? What were our audiences seeing on YouTube? They were seeing personalities. They like to connect through personality. So how did we want to do that through Conde Nast? Well, it turns out the best personalities for our shows were right in our building. The editors of some of the magazines have such tremendous on-stage presence and in-video presence that it made sense. So, obviously we have a celebrity in Anna Wintour. So you could say, well, that's unfair. She's obviously already famous. But Claire is not famous at all. She was an editor in the test kitchen. She loved what she did. She wrote for the magazine of Bon Appetit. She tested the recipes. She was so relatable, so easy to get to know. Not famous, no audience. And we started doing some small tests with her. We started putting her into some of our O&O shows. And then eventually we launched a big show called Gourmet Makes, where she's the star. And this show has been a runway success. People find her relatable. She is a personality that people can connect with. And that's what the platform that we were using her for was all about. So now she has this massive following and is constantly, the feedback we get from her and from, we have another editor, Brad, who's now also doing shows for Bon Appetit. And it's one of our ways that we're pulling homegrown talent out of our staff and putting them in front of an audience. You don't have to be an A-list superstar to make a connection with people. When we think about brand extensions, you can't do it without thinking about the format of the extension. Again, this is a lot of learning from what platform we want to be on and what different formats work on different platforms without losing too much sight onto what we do with our brands and what our brands really stand for. So Vogue has a lot of editorial around, or they do a lot of interviews. And so we wanted to think about how we could take that interview style format and not just put like 2 chairs out and video people. That's not interesting. how do we take an interesting spin on the interview format? And so one of our creative developers came up with a series called 73 Questions. We do take A-list celebrities, but we ask them in a one-shot take 73 questions with a handheld camera. Simple format, personality. Obviously, we're leveraging some of the celebrities that come in through Vogue. But again, it's one of those ways that we're taking an extension of Vogue, not actually what was there, and turning it into new IP for the brand. Glamour also has a show that we're leveraging, again, extensions, making the brand flex a little bit into territory where they haven't been. We did our homework, saw that React videos on YouTube were really resonating. I think you probably know what they are. Kids react to something, elders react to something, and they show them videos and then see what they think about them. Well, we did the same thing here with Glamour. We looked at a lot of different songs, or people singing cover songs on YouTube. We found this woman, Davina, who loved Pink and was singing a lot of Pink songs. So we brought in Pink, and we had her watch Davina sing her songs. Pink was like, this blew her away. This woman's really incredible. So incredible that just recently she pulled Davina into her tour in the Netherlands, and Davina opened up for her while on tour. So it's taking formats that we see resonating elsewhere, see how we can apply them to our brands, and then ultimately, hopefully, they turn into big successes. So the goal, deepen the relationship with your audience. That's the point of all the video that we're doing. But the real goal is fandom. When you see people walking down the street with logos splashed across their chest or across their ass, you're like, wow, they must really love that brand if they're going to do a lot of that free advertising for them. We want that. We want those brand ambassadors. We want people to say, God, I love this so much that I'm willing to slap a logo on my T-shirt or put a sticker on my computer. How do we do that? We're exploring new ways, direct to consumer. Make it tangible. Make them feel it. Make them see it. We knew that people loved Allure's Best of Beauty series. Every year, the products that were on the list, Best of Beauty, sold out in stores. And we got rave reviews from the stores who were like, thank you for putting this product on the list, it's sold out. We also got some negative reviews from consumers who are like, God, you put it on the list and now it's sold out. So how do we bridge that connection? Instead of sending people to a different avenue to explore products that we were supportive of, we're now doing a monthly subscription service for beauty products. This subscription service has just grown exponentially over the last couple years to the point where we're in every state and we're doing over 100,000 subscriptions. It's incredible. But of course, that's a natural extension for Allure. It's a beauty brand. Why wouldn't we be doing this? Why wouldn't we be bringing our products, or not our products, but the best of the products out there that we write about to our audiences? For GQ, we didn't want to leave our male counterparts out, so we launched a great stuff box for GQ. This doesn't come out monthly, but we saw over a 270% increase in subscriptions for the GQ stuff box. This is incredible, and the other part we wanted to do, because GQ is that kind of a brand that wants to not only show you the fashion, but help you explore fashion for yourself, we launched a social first series for GQ on unboxing. So now, not only can you receive the box, you also can now find out how to style everything that's in the box. So a great natural extension for GQ. The last in-person extension I want to talk about, or consumer extension, is this Hot 10. When I talked about Claire before, who was one of our test kitchen editors, she and Brad have become so famous amongst their followers that the fans wanted more of her. They wanted more of Brad. We now have a full weekend coming up in October that celebrates Brad and Claire. They do cooking. The fans come in. They do cooking with them. They do lectures with them. They do different meet and greets with them. We basically turn these two test kitchen editors into celebrities. And that's great for us, and it's great for our fans. So we're not trying to do something that our fans don't want. We actually want to try to do more of what they want and bring them closer to us as a brand as a result. So our big mantra is don't be afraid to explore some of these different areas. Test and learn, build a brand extension, come up with something innovative and creative that inspires people to want to spend more time with you. And so just this past month, on September 10th, we launched GQ Sports. This was the culmination of understanding where the white space is for GQ. You know, GQ is a pretty old brand. It's doing really well, still has a tremendous amount of recognition. But what's next? Well, when we started to see the landscape of who now was setting culture, fashion, style, it was athletes. Specifically, actually, the NBA imposed a dress code. They have now an enforced dress code for some of the players coming in and out of the stadiums or in and out of the arenas. And that has now become the runway for fashion. When they get out of their cars, as they enter the stadium, people see like what they're wearing, what sneakers they have on, what their music, their phone that they're wearing, that they have in their hand. You know, they are now setting the trends. They are now what people look up to and what kids look up to and defining what fashion means. So we launched this knowing that athletes were such an important part of fashion, culture, and lifestyle now. So it seems natural, but it's easy to say that in hindsight, not so easy when you're going through it in the first place. So I have a little clip here of some of the content that we launched on GQ Sports, so I wanted to give you a quick look.
Inside the lives of athletes like me.
I let my clothes and my beard do the talking.
Oh, snap.
Getting pumped, getting ready.
I got a big cross on my back. It took 10 hours just in one go.
This one hurt, so I didn't finish it.
My mom hates it every time I get one.
What's up, guys?
Collecting shoes started when I was in high school.
I broke the freshman scoring record in the NCAA tournament in these.
How many?
39.
These might be my favorite, though. When it's your birthday, you can wear stuff like this. What up, GQ?
This is my favorite bag. I'm a big candle guy.
Gotta have my cufflinks.
My essential things aren't exciting.
Golf, absolutely an essential.
Never leave home without it.
Hey, Mom, I'm calling you from work.
You're gonna start down, right?
Where I have a new assignment I want to tell you about.
Circle, circle.
They're going to have professional hockey players shoot a slap shot at me.
Flip off that bastard trying to score in your fucking goal.
I don't think that's a good idea.
Here with Chris Archer, the Tampa Bay Rays. He's gonna teach me how to get my wiffle ball game on point.
It works extremely well with the baseball. Let's see how it goes with the wiffle ball.
Ow!
GQ, you brought this out of me.
That's just a recipe for greatness.
So you can see through the video, it's not anything that was necessarily covered in GQ before, but it's not so far afield, and it doesn't seem like that far of a stretch. And so we're constantly trying to innovate and explore new ways that we can take some of these brands, explore some of that white space, and find out what still feels on brand, but resonates now and capturing some of the trends that we see. And so that's what we're trying to do, test and learn. Explore things, pivot quickly, stay nimble, keep moving. And the lessons we learned from the GQ Sports launch was, number one, do your homework on where the audience is underserved. And use so much data now to tell you what that is, to tell you who your audience is, tell you what they like. And when you see something blip, don't be afraid to test it, which is what we did with the sports brand. Create content that authentically represents the brand. Again, you saw it. You saw the style. You saw the fashion. So all the same adjectives that you would use to describe GQ comes up in GQ Sports, but it's done in its own unique way. What I didn't touch on yet is the soft launch. We actually launched a lot of that content prior to putting it onto the GQ channel, the sports channel. We wanted to test it out. We wanted to see what resonated, because when we went big with the launch, we wanted that grand opening to be splashy and know what the hits were. So we tested different formats, we tested different celebrities. We actually do a whole scale check on celebrities, because you would think that some of those athletes would be popular no matter what, and that's not always true. It's about what's resonating with the audience now. And the other just tidbit is that not all of the shows are driven by celebrities or athletes. You saw on Average Joe, that was one of our senior editors for GQ, who's now one of the biggest stars on the channel. So it's, again, using that homegrown talent, using that personality and what we have to work with inside our own walls. So now what do we do? Where do we go from here? What's the next step for Condé Nast? The way I think about things and the way I'm looking forward, this is the three buckets that I look at. I think about audiences, I think about content, and I think about just the general business and the business landscape. From an audience perspective, what I'm seeing now is that they are building connections to the content through the talent. This is that personality-driven content that I'm talking about. When you see someone like Claire, getting millions of views on her videos every time we upload, that's pretty special, because she didn't have that celebrity status, and it wasn't like we were building off of something that was already there. This was built from nothing, but she's personable, relatable. People want to see more of that. I also see audiences leaning into social causes and leaning into brands with social causes. Now, I don't know where Condé Nast fits into this yet. We haven't quite gotten there, but or at least we haven't, kind of put that out there. But the CPG brands do it a lot. You see CPG, it's resonating there. Retail are leaning into social causes, and that's a reason for consumers to choose them, because it feels like there's some connection. Micro communities is another thing. Now, if you have a niche topic, if you're interested in underwater basket weaving in Arizona, you might only find one other person interested in that in this whole country. But you might find hundreds, thousands of people interested in another country, and now the web is bringing us all together. The content is now global, and communities are now global. So you can find a community that fits you under a niche topic because you have access to them now. And lastly, on the audience side, they want what they want when they want it. So this is the toughest challenge for us, is how do we serve all of our audiences in all of the places they want to be in the way that they want to engage with us. The next bucket I look at is content. Like, what's going on in the content world? Well, content is now global. So when you think about the big platforms that we're distributing our content on, we're thinking about YouTube, Facebook, Snap. They're in every market. And so how does that translate into the business that we're doing? Do we need to start thinking about translation services? Do we need to start thinking about dubbing? Do we need to start thinking about, launching new things in new countries to serve local markets in local language? These are all big topics of conversation in the walls of Condé Nast, and I think they're big topics everywhere. Content is timeless. The web has provided the opportunity for things to live on in perpetuity. And so the thing to think about here is what we make today can work really hard for us tomorrow. We're now launching, we do about 4,000 videos a year, but think about the library of content that we have amassed over the last 5 years in doing that. How can we be smart about what we do now so that we can get a lifetime value out of it? So, try not to make short-term decisions when we know this will have a long-term effect on our business. This is something that I contemplate all the time. Show association is higher than network association. I like This Is Us as a show on TV. I can't tell you if it's on NBC or ABC. Does it matter? I don't know. So how do we think about that as a portfolio company? Do we think about it as shows? Do we think about it as brands? Do we think about it as kind of an umbrella company? So these are all different marketing decisions we'll need to make in the future. Feedback is instant. This can be really demoralizing for some of the creative and art directors out there, because right away whether people love it or hate it. And that's great. I think we should all embrace every bit of that feedback and learn how to not only optimize all of the technical things that we're optimizing, but how do we optimize content as a result of the feedback. I've talked about this a little bit already. Distribution replaces destinations. This is about audiences not going to destinations as much as they used to, they are everywhere. So how do we capture them everywhere? On the business side, some of the things that I think about from the landscape are, what are those new metrics? We're redefining them, I feel like, every day. So what's that going to look like? New economics for production, because not everything requires the same level of production style. Every platform is different. Every place you put your videos are different, and video isn't necessarily cheap. So what does that look like? I think everyone will be in the DTC business because advertising alone can't help you get to where you want to be. So those are some of the things I think about just generally where we're going. And I wanted to leave you with 5 takeaways. So number 1, video is the key to the future. It helps people modernize. It helps build those connections with audiences you're looking for. Number 2, authenticity rules the day. Don't try to be something you're not. Be authentic to yourself, but also try to adapt to the platform and the place where you're distributing your content and your video. Number 3, lean into what sets you apart. Your unique value is what is going to attract the audience. As you grow from legacy publisher to multimedia experiences, you still have to stay true to your core while expanding it and helping the audiences grow with you. Don't be afraid to try something new. You've got to keep people inspired. You've got to keep the plane flying. Try it out, test and learn, fail and fail fast. Put it out there and see what happens, because you're going to get data. You're going to get that instant feedback. And then lastly, the future is wide open. There are no roads where we are going. There's no playbook. We are building the playbook as we all sit here today. No one has the answer on what that metric is that we're going to use to evaluate our business, because every platform had its own metric, and now we need to figure out how to combine it. No one knows how to make content scalable and custom and profitable all at the same time. Everybody's trying to figure that out now. So what I'm excited to be here today at the MediaPost Summit is to see a room full of people who are all trying to figure this out together, and that really gets me jazzed. So thank you for having me.
We have time for questions.
Hi, I'm Casey from Video Elephant. I'm curious when it comes to syndicating content across different platforms and things like that. Obviously, there's a revenue opportunity, others there's not. For the non-rev opportunities, what is the decision-making process around this is valuable to us? These are, is it audience? Is it, I don't want to fill in any,
Yeah, no, that's an awesome question. I think some of it is marketing. Some of it is audience building. Even on some of the platforms where, I think some of the larger platforms will monetize content for you. So yes, there's rev shares that you have to think about, or different, there's money opportunities, might be just not as big. But when we're looking at it as a full ecosystem and how it plays into the ecosystem, is it a platform or is it a place where we think there's a tremendous audience that helps us grow our audience and draw it into our ecosystem? If that is the case, then it's worth it. Obviously, it's only worth it if we have the money to spend to do it. But it's when we think about how we cut our content and how we shoot our content, for video in particular, we're hoping to make some of those decisions further up in that funnel, so we can say, we want to test this out on these additional platforms. How do we just tweak it for those additional platforms so that we can test the marketing value of it or the audience development value of it? So, it's not an easy answer. It's a kind of a complex math problem, but we're trying to put some metrics around it to figure out what the value is, not just the money value. Yeah.
Hi, Brian with Rolling Stone. As you create your original video, what's your approach to either partner integration from a branded content standpoint, editorial ownership, or full-on endorsement product integrations, or whatever that might be? We're looking at doing a lot of the same things, and it's always just interesting to see how other partners approach ad revenue relative to editorial video series.
Yeah. I think branded content is a big component of any content company's revenue stream, but the balance that you have to strike is it on brand, and where do you put it? We know for a fact that we don't, not that we don't, but we have to do a lot of analysis on how much control the advertiser wants in the formation of the content. The more control we have, the broader places we can put it, because we know it has our look and feel and authenticity, which is really important. The more control the advertiser has, the less authentic it usually is for our brand. So it's that kind of balance. So we think branded content is incredibly important. It's a necessary part of the business, and we want our advertisers to feel like they're a part of the ecosystem that we have here at Conde Nast. But it is those challenges of how much control, where the control is, and that determines the destination.
Hi, Elise Kantarsi, Bonnier Corporation. For your videos, both long and short format, are you doing all the production in-house yourself?
We are. We're doing our production. We have, when I started at Conde Nast Entertainment a couple months ago, I was blown away by the level of production and the scale that we have in-house. So yeah, it's all us.
Kathryn, since you mentioned direct-to-consumer and the Allure box, I'm curious if you've seen any, if you can tell us anything about how video pushes e-commerce. For instance, affiliate links.
Yep.
In addition to your direct sales, is video a more effective driver of affiliate response and conversion?
I don't know if I can answer if it's a more effective driver. I think it definitely gives you more association with the products. Video can bring things to life. But then when you look at a company like Goop, which is a lot of text, they are selling a lot of product. So I feel like it's more about what people are trying to get. One, what is the price point on the product? How much explanation you need around the product, and what the audience is going to do with that product. So with the GQ Best Stuff box, we actually have video that accompanies the box. We don't need to do that with the beauty box from Allure. So it's not that the video is driving product. It's, if you're putting something out there that people want, it's going to drive them to take an action. And we can help with video to tell them what action to take, if that makes sense.
Kathryn, Friedrich, thank you very much.
Thank you.